Are you not afraid in a earthly, motherly way for the potential consequences of what you're saying? But also, bloody hell, mate, are you not a bit worried that you might get murdered? Who benefits from Charlie Kirk being killed? Who benefits? Like, as they say, cui bono? That's the question to always ask. And I actually didn't understand how Israel benefits from Charlie Kirk being murdered. I certainly can't see yet how, like, sort of French special forces could, so can you explain that to me? Because I don't understand who benefits from, but I also know that whenever I've seen it my whole life, a lone gunman killed RFK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. I know that's a lie, so I'm open. So what is it?
So look, I can tell you that from the moment that Charlie got shot, and I can't explain it, and maybe it's because Charlie would tell me all the time that he was going to die young, and I showed those messages, and I just knew that this was big. I knew it was big. I didn't have the players. I certainly didn't suspect Turning Point USA would be, as I believe, involved in a cover-up. And we can talk about what the motives are of that. They could be financial motives. It doesn't necessarily mean they were involved in plotting to kill him. And I've never said that. But I do believe that they have betrayed him since. And I am comfortable saying that today. Because I know that they have told lies. I know that they have withheld information that if truly you were motivated by goodness and truth, you would come out and you would say it. Like, there are people at Turning Point who Charlie texted the night before and said they're going to kill me. Well, if you're trying to figure out who killed Charlie Kirk, wouldn't that be a good thing to come forward with and to the public and say Charlie thought that he was going to be murdered the night before? And they're not doing that. So to me, to not assist that investigation is not something that I'm going to ignore. Also, to not answer basic questions that if I said to you, Russell, where were you when Charlie got shot? You're not going to get defensive and weird. You're just going to, I can tell you where I was. I was sitting plotting, planning my next show at the kitchen counter, and they are being very strange about details on that day. It makes me uncomfortable. If someone, the easier task, if the internet thinks that, Mikey McCoy, who was the person who, instantly picked up the phone and walked away when Charlie got shot, who was the chief of staff, if people find that behavior to be suspicious, and I do find it to be not what I would do if a shot went off. Obviously everybody else ran or ducked, and he instantly picked up a phone. I would just show my call log and I would be like, guys, this is crazy. Like, I called my mom, and and so it's the absence of answering and the blaming and the yelling that feels off to people. And I think that's fair. I think spiritually people are sensing, their intuition is coming online and saying, this just doesn't feel right. Again, we can assign different motives. There are donors that were pressuring Charlie. Those donors are still there. They could be saying, we want you to never tell us to make it so that he is his memory, rather. They're fighting over his memory, his legacy.
Yeah.
That he was Judeo-Christian. I'm not comfortable when the spokesperson of Turning Point USA comes out and essentially tries to paint a picture like I'm lying when I very lightly, in reminiscing about me and Charlie, mentioned that, our last conversations, just like I would say this if you, God forbid, died tomorrow.
Don't use that as an example.
Yeah, but I would say I was pushing Russell to become Catholic, because that's true, right? It would be very strange if your spokesperson came out and said, that's absolutely not true. He was not praying the rosary. She never had this discussion. That's what Turning Point USA did. There was a discussion between Andrew Cova and Alex Clark, because I don't know why, but the Judeo-Christian syndicate of influencers seized on this one sentence I said. It never was meant to be antagonistic. It was just an honest, like, we were talking about Catholicism, and they all started making videos saying it's absolutely not true. Charlie never flirted with it. They knew, Turning Point knew that Charlie was going to mass, sometimes daily. They knew he was praying the rosary. They knew that Erica took a priest to pray over his body when he died. So you have to ask the question, why lie? And I think that just any lie at all makes me feel uncomfortable, because lies are not necessary unless you're covering something up. No matter what the lie is, why do we lie? To cover something up. So that's a fair assessment that they're engaged in some sort of a cover up, whether it's about his legacy, where he was at spiritually. And then you have to ask deeper questions. Why?
I've had this question before, and I don't think I've been as close to the sun as you are now. Are you not afraid in a earthly, motherly way for the potential consequences of what you're saying, given particularly that we're talking about, you've said publicly that Bridget and that other guy that hangs around with her, the other one with a penis, Emmanuel.
Yeah.
So that's no Christ within there.
Mm-hmm.
That's penis without.
Mm-hmm.
Like saying, that they've issued a death threat and that you've had, it's a credible threat. So firstly, of course, there's the sort of the fluffy story, exciting, fluffy, woo story of that. But also, bloody hell, mate, are you not a bit worried that you might get murdered?
Well, I think everyone in the world, after you watch Charlie get publicly executed, sensed fear. If you were in the public sphere, I think you probably felt, whoa, chill. Every person, I think, realized, wow, this is not, we're in politics. And we are now seeing what the political system is. And they are willing to kill for power. And that's why it became plausible, right out of the gate, that Charlie was killed because of power. Before they even came out with kind of the ridiculous story about the 30-06 and the Superman neck, and because he eats carrots, whatever it is, people sense that there's a possibility here that the world could be this evil. And I think that also, by the way, is what gripped people globally, was you kind of saw this guy and you felt spiritually impacted by watching him be publicly executed. If Charlie had died in an accident, I don't think it would have had the same impact, but they chose to publicly execute him. And so, yeah, of course, there was an element of, okay, this is getting real and this is getting serious. My greatest fear is not getting into heaven, because I actually am a Christian, and I question the Christians who lie, who choose to lie because they are so attached to the earthly possessions that they are getting in terms of money. My bigger fear is my children growing up in a world that's run by pedophiles. That terrifies me. And to be clear, I did not go into this consciously, right?
Yeah.
When I was covering the Brigitte and Emmanuel story, if you thought that I would end up here and suddenly questioning whether or not Brigitte could have been in America on that day, which is where I'm at right now, you're out of your mind. I mean, I literally thought, oh my God, this is so funny. Like, this is like
funny.
Yes, like this person, like I read the story, and it quite literally, this whole thing starts with a Daily Mail article where I saw a headline that Emmanuel Macron denies his wife's a man. This had not broken in the English speaking world. So I was like, what a strange what's going on in France that this president has to come out and deny that his wife's a man? Like, that's funny. And I read the article, and the Daily Mail article was not sufficient in debunking it. It was kind of, and this is obviously ridiculous and crazy, and all of the words. And they're like, there's this one photo or two photos of Brigitte as a child. And I'm like, what do you mean as a child? Like, there should just be tons of photos because she has children. And so then I pivoted to where the rumors came from, and I sat there and I read, and my jaw hit the floor. I was like, what do you mean there's just no photos for 30 years of somebody's life? This can't be a real thing. And I thought this was so interesting, that the implications here for me that I thought were more severe is that the entire media of France would collude to hide this very obvious thing, right? So it was more like, this is funny. And then I get fired from a Daily Wire almost, I think, 2 weeks after covering that story. Covered it in March. I got fired in March of 2024. The next thing I know, I'm fired. I start my new podcast. I get demonetized on YouTube. They're hitting me over speaking about the Brigitte thing again. And come December, I'm getting a cease and desist from the president of France. And then come February, I'm getting a phone call from the president of the United States. And I'm going, what is going on? People kind of had a base assumption that people in France are into some weird stuff. Nobody had an assumption that this could cause an international crisis. And then when I actually sat down that December with Xavier Poussard and got the full download on the story, he's the one who did the Becoming Brigitte series and wrote the book on it, I went, oh wow, this is way more severe than I had realized. And we are talking about a culture that fosters pedophilia and being protected by governments worldwide. Like, that's important, And it felt like a story that I needed to bring to light. That was kind of that's how that happened. It was very natural. There was no, I want to be super controversial. I just think it's important that we're not ruled by pedophiles, actually.
For this week only, every dollar you spend on tryreborn.com gets you, I'm going to take the sunglasses off for this, it's so serious, 50 entries into the draw to win this Jeep. Man, I've been driving around this Jeep. If I wasn't a family man anymore, my word, me and my German Shepherd, we were going around, people was looking at us, sing hosannas, they were saying. But I suggested there was a strong sexual undercurrent. If you are a person that's lonely, perhaps you're an incel, perhaps just staring down at your own glazed belly day after day, pixelated ghosts sucking the very life force out of you. Well, them days are behind you. Try Reborn.com. Stop masturbating and win this Jeep. Thanks for watching the video. Have a look at this one over here, or join us Monday, Wednesday and Friday on Rumble.